This video is to go through how to complete table C for the Wheel of Theodorus project. So we've now completed tables A and B, and now we are going to move on to table C. And to complete table C, it's going to be really beneficial for us to use our table B work and our wheel drawing. So it says complete the table for each hypotenuse length that is not a whole number. So we said the square root of 4 equals 2, which is point C, and so that would not go on my table because the square root of 4 equals the whole number 2. And so I'm going to skip the square root of 4 when I get to that point. And so on my wheel, I'm going to start with the square root of A, or the square root of 2 rather, which was point A. And so the hypotenuse length would be square root of 2. The two consecutive whole numbers, the length is between, well, right here, we have that A is between the whole numbers 1 and 2. So you can just write 1, 2, just like that, okay? And then a ruler estimate to find two decimal numbers, the length is between, okay, rounded to the nearest tenths. So we're really trying to narrow down what is the length of square root of 2. What is that really closest to? Because just between 1 and 2 is a pretty large difference in length. And so I'm using the paper ruler that was attached to the end of your project. This is in tenths, and because our ruler estimate, they're asking for the nearest tenth, this is just a really easy way to make sure that I can count my tenths. So I'm going to line my ruler up between my center point and the edge of that length for A. And so this is 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about right here, 1 and 4 tenths. And so I'm going to write on my table C 1.4 because this is asking to the nearest tenth. Now we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to actually find the calculator estimate, and this time we're rounding to the nearest hundredths. And so you can just use a calculator that you have around your house. You can use your phone, okay? And the way that we do the square root is we are going to put in 2, because that's my square root, and then I'm going to hit this button over here. It has a 2 and a radical sign and an X. And I see that that is 1.414213563, and so on. You will notice that these are irrational numbers. All the things that go on your table C are irrational numbers. And so it says round to the nearest tenth. So I have 1.41. 4 is below 5, so we leave that alone. We leave it as 1.41. So I'm going to put 1.41. You will notice that our ruler estimate and our calculator estimate are really, really close. Okay, and so for the next one, I'm just going to go back, repeat that same process. So the square root of 3, which was our length B, that square root of 3, is also an irrational number that falls between 1 and 2 on my number line. Okay, and then I'm going to, again, measure that length. Okay, so starting at my center point, make sure your 0 mark is on the center point, not the very edge of the ruler. That's not where it begins for measuring. And you're going to line it up, and it looks like we're at about, if this was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just right before 8. So I would probably round it to about 1.7, 1.8. That's really up to you. This is why it's an estimate. Let's say I round it to 1.7. And then I am going to, again, with my calculator, so I have to clear it out. I am going to put 3 and then the square root symbol, and it's 1.73. Remember, the one next to that hundredths is a 2, so I can leave it as 1.73. This column is going to be pretty exact because you know which two consecutive whole numbers each square root falls in between. That information should be pretty exact. okay? Now remember, I'm skipping the square root of 4 because that's a whole number. I just want what is not a whole number, so my next piece would be square root of 5. But I want you to keep in mind, we are human, right? And so as this wheel goes on, you may find that those ruler estimates for your lengths become a little bit further and further from the exact calculator estimate. And so that's natural. And so I want you to think about what two numbers should it fall in between, and make a note. If you're starting to find that your ruler estimate is not falling between the two whole numbers that you know it should, okay, that happens because of human error, right? We are not perfect. As our wheel continues, your measurements might start to be off, your lengths might get a little bit longer than they're supposed to be, and that will continue as you draw your triangles. And so what I want you to do is just kind of make a note, put a little star or highlight it, and just underneath write, happened because of human error or mistake in drawing, okay? And that's, again, really natural. That's just this ruler estimate column. Your hypotenuse length is exact. You did the math in table A for that. The two consecutive whole numbers on the number line, that's really exact. You really can narrow it down between two whole numbers. Again, your ruler estimate is where you might run into that issue. Your calculator estimate to the nearest hundredth will also be pretty close to exact. And so just recognize that this ruler estimate is starting to seem off. That's understandable. I just want you to note where that happens and write at the bottom that you know it's because of human error, okay? I want you to at least recognize that something has happened that's causing that number to not be exact or to be off from what you know to be true. And that's how you complete Table C.